दान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे नमो महावदान्याय कृष्णप्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे
Krishna,
हरे
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So, welcome again for our Bhakti Shastri course. So, today is very auspicious appearance day of Srila Vakreshwar Pandit. You all know that Vakreshwar Pandit was very famous for dancing. Sometimes he would dance 72 hours continuously together. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to say Vakreshwar Pandit is like one of my wings. If I get another Vakreshwar Pandit, then I'll fly in the sky. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would say. So let us take blessings of Srila Vakreshwar Pandit so that we can study this wonderful Bhagavad Gita in appropriate consciousness. So in our last discussion, we had discussed preface and in which Prabhupada very wonderfully creates the mood in which we should study uh, any of the Shastras, Vedic scriptures, especially Bhagavad Gita. So Prabhupada told us how there should be the spirit of devotion. One should accept Krishna as Supreme Personality of Godhead, at least theoretically, and one should hear in a submissive mood. So, and understand, we also discuss what is the purpose and central point of Bhagavad Gita. So, and what is the purpose of Srila Prabhupada writing Bhagavad Gita? It was to propagate desire of Krishna, to propagate the will of Krishna. So, Krishna should not be eliminated from Bhagavad Gita. In fact, Krishna is the whole and soul of Bhagavad Gita. So, all these things, points we discussed. Now, we will begin with first chapter. So today's discussions are quite a lot about Mahabharata because many beginning verses are all referring to various contexts of Mahabharata. So let us start. So what we will be doing is that we will be maybe first verse I will recite myself and you all can recite after me. But second verse onwards, I or Shantanu can either of us can allot one of you to recite the verse and the translation, and if required, I may tell some part of the purport. Why this? Because so you all also should recite the verse. So we should know certainly that most important is to know translation purport, but at the same time, we should be also able to recite and India. So it is not difficult for us to recite Sanskrit verses. Just by little practice, we can easily recite. So our method will be that now first verse I will recite, but next verse onwards, one of you will recite, and then we will repeat after you, so that that verse becomes little nicely engraved. Prabhupada started that system of Bhagavatam class also. Even in Bhagavad Gita classes, Prabhupada would do that. So one time only, not 3 times. So we'll repeat after you. And in this way, then translation can be read. And we may not, as I said last time, that we may not be able to read all the parts of purport. So we will read some part of the purport and discuss. So let us go ahead with that. Okay, so Shantanu bro, you'd like to a lot only devotees. Turn by
Proji,
turn, devotees can get the.
yes, Proji, we can do that. Proji, actually, your voice is flickering. We all are not able to hear you properly. It is showing that your network bandwidth is low.
Oh God, this. So I am here in Hyderabad, so I don't know what to do here. Okay, just give me a minute.
Proji, you can turn off your video, it will save the bad bandwidth.
Yes, Proji, that is also good way.
Okay, that's not the best way, but fine. Maybe I can do that. Now you can hear me clearly?
Yes, Proji, now it's clear.
Okay. So, could you get what I said?
Yes, Proji, it was clear. Mostly it was like audible, but in between, I think a little bit of flickering was there. Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm in Hyderabad. So.
Could you please repeat once more?
Yes, Roji, for us it was like quite like couldn't understand properly many things.
Oh, you could have just told me. I didn't know. By the time I could see the chat messages, I was just speaking only. One of you can, in such case, one of you can just turn on your mic and tell also.
Yes, Proji.
So I was telling that in the beginning, I told about today's happiness day of Vakreshwar Pandit. And so we take blessings. He is very famous for very ecstatic devotional dancing in the kirtans. Then we started with what we did last time. So last time we had discussed introduction and preface, in which Prabhupada very nicely brings out what should be the mood in to approach Bhagavad Gita, understand Krishna to be the central point of Bhagavad Gita, and we should approach Bhagavad Gita in the mood of devotion, in the spirit of submissiveness, understanding that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead, at least theoretically. And then we also, what is the central point of Bhagavad Gita was discussed. What is the main point in Bhagavad Gita was to bring the soul from the material entanglement to the platform of love towards Krishna, to the platform of from the platform of conditioned life, the platform of liberated life. So that was a purpose. And then as I was telling that now we will begin with the first chapter. So first I will recite and you all can recite after me. But second verse, I want one of you can recite and read translation. You may not read all the part of the purport. I will tell what if some part of the purport has your textbook. So Shantanu Prabhu, would you like to now allot the devotees after second verse onwards, or I should allot?
Proji, anything is fine. I was thinking of allotting alphabetically, so everyone like it's not difficult also.
So please allot then.
Yes,
so second
Proji.
verse now only you start allotting. I will recite first verse meanwhile, and please repeat after me. Okay. Dhritarashtra Uvacha
Dhritarashtra Uvacha
Dharma Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre
Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre
Samaveta
Samaveta Yutsavah
Mamakaha Pandavaschaiva
Mamaka Pandavaschaiva
Kim Akurvata Sanjaya.
Kim Akurvata Sanjaya.
Okay. So somebody can, okay, maybe I will only read for this time. Dhritarashtra said, "O Sanjay, after my son, the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, what did they do?" So this is the first verse and the first section of Bhagavad Gita, first chapter. So in the purport, Prabhupada is writing about again the importance of Bhagavad Gita, which again we last time discussed the Gita Mahatmya. So and Prabhupada is basically kind of continuing the theme from introduction, that how one should study Bhagavad Gita with the help of a devotee, and one should try to study Bhagavad Gita in the line of disciplic succession without motivated interpretation. One should not give a motivated interpretation. One should not propagate one's own agenda with Bhagavad Gita. Another very important line Prabhupada says in the end of the first paragraph is that one will find in the Bhagavad Gita all that is contained in other scriptures, but the reader will also find things which are not to be found elsewhere. So this is that's why when we are studying Bhagavad Gita, it is not just one of the Vedic literatures, it's the quintessence of all the Vedic literatures. And whatever is there, if one understands Bhagavad Gita properly, basically it is to be understood that he has understood all the scriptures. And in fact, there is much more than other scriptures one will find in Bhagavad Gita. So now, Bhagavad Gita, as we know, it is found in Mahabharata. So Mahabharata describes in great detail the political intrigue, the political scene that led to the battle of Kurukshetra. And now the battle of Kurukshetra is about to begin, and the king Dhritarashtra, who was blind, now he is inquiring from his secretary. So the first verse is beginning with Dhritarashtra's inquiry from his secretary Sanjay. So at this point in Mahabharata, the sons of Pandu are assembled with their allies to fight with the sons of Dhritarashtra and their allies. So on the battlefield, this kind of scene is there. And literally, actually hundreds and millions of people were there. In fact, it was really, as His Holiness Lokanath Swami Maharaj was also telling in recent class in Pune, that actually that was the first world war, we can say, because the kings from all over the world had assembled there to fight. So right from powerful generals to common foot soldiers, everybody was gathered with their weapons, horses and elephants to fight in one of the biggest battles of all time. So it was a very, very historical battle and very crucial battle. The climax of the entire epic is now fast approaching. Who is going to win? Which soldiers are going to survive and which soldiers will have to die? Which side is going to win? Is good going to win over the evil? These kind of questions are going to be very soon answered. So at this point of time, nobody's mind is wandering. Everybody just focused upon what is going to be outcome now, and we have to all participate into the battlefield. So the battle is about to begin, and first 27 shlokas of Bhagavad Gita of the first chapter, they set the battlefield scene, and then suddenly Krishna inserts within our open ears the minds and hearts, the philosophy, which will awaken to our immortality. So there is a scene of battlefield, and Krishna is now going to, after that, Krishna is going to speak most profound philosophy. So Prabhupada, in one of the lecture in Vrindavan on September 1975, he was explaining Krishna's compassion. So Prabhupada was saying that we have taken a very difficult task to convince people to take to Krishna consciousness. It's a very difficult task because people are very much attached to material life. But that is the only benefit, Prabhupada says, or the supreme goal of life. So real benefit or goal of life is to go closer and closer to Krishna, to revive our relationship with Krishna. So Krishna personally comes to teach this science. Why did Krishna leave Bhagavad Gita? Out of his compassion, Prabhupada says. So that Krishna was thinking, after my disappearance, people will take advantage of this Bhagavad Gita. As I instructed my dear friend Arjun, they will also take advantage and become free from the clutches of death. So this is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna spoke this Bhagavad Gita out of compassion for all of us. So now we see here the verse Dhritarashtra. His question is little funny. Anyways, so Dhritarashtra was actually, as while asking this question, was little bit afraid. So because his son's opponents, they included warriors like Arjun and Bhima. And most frightening factor for Dhritarashtra was Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, was on the side of Arjun, on the opposite side, driving Arjuna's chariot. So that's why in this verse, we see that Krishna, this Dhritarashtra, what he says, Mamakaha and Pandavaha. So Dhritarashtra is immediately separating his sons from the sons of Pandu, isn't it? He's immediately making a distinction. So because Dhritarashtra was afraid that the battle is taking on the Kurukshetra. The battlefield is Kurukshetra, which is the sacred place from the time immemorial for all the sages. It is a Dharma Kshetra. So Dharma Kshetra means a sacred place. And moreover, Krishna is personally present in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So this is that's why it is Dharma Kshetra. Now Dhritarashtra, who is the father of Kurus, he was highly doubtful about the possibility of his son's ultimate victory. Prabhupada is saying in the purport. So that's why, out of his doubt, he's inquired from Sanjay, what did they do? Now it is a very funny question because they all are assembled to fight. In fact, Dhritarashtra himself is saying, Yuyutsavaha. Yuyutsavaha means desiring to fight. Now they have assembled desiring to fight. Then what is the meaning of this question? What did they do? It's a very funny question. If somebody is sitting for prasad, and then if somebody sits for a prasad, and if one asks question, so what did he do? Of course he'll take prasad, isn't it? What did he do? Of course he's going to take prasad. Somebody sitting for chanting. Where is the question of asking? What did he do? He is going to chant, isn't it? But so there is, when Dhritarashtra is asking this question, it is indicating his little apprehension. He is little apprehensive whether what is going to happen in the battlefield. So although it looks like a nonsense question, one sense, it's not a common sense. but at the same time it is indicating the fear of Dhritarashtra. So Dhritarashtra did not want a compromise, Prabhupada says ahead in the purport, between the cousin brothers, and he wanted to ensure that the battle of the Kurukshetra takes place and his sons become victorious. So one of his fear was that this battlefield of Kurukshetra is a Dharma Kshetra, which is mentioned in all the Vedas as a sacred place of pilgrimage. So this place, Parshuram, so why it was sacred? Of course, now it has sacred, especially because Krishna was present. But previously also, Parshuram had, after killing Kshatriyas, 21 generations of the Kshatriyas, Parshuram had done tapasya over there. And many sages also did tapasya over there since time immemorial. And also, Maharaj Kuru, who was the ancestors of Kauravas, he also performed tapasya at that place, and that's why it is called as Kurukshetra. In fact, even the denizens of heaven, they perform tapasya over there. So it is said in the scripture that any pious act performed in Kurukshetra surely bears result. So Dhritarashtra was very fearful that this holy place, Kurukshetra, may influence the outcome of battle. So it may influence. So His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrita Swami Maharaj, he was telling in one of the classes that place has the influence on the person, isn't it? So if a drunkard, he comes to temple, what he will do? He will lose all his enthusiasm for drinking, isn't it? And all his energy will also be lost. But if he goes to bar, he will immediately get all energy, isn't it? He will be energized in the bar. Similarly, a devotee feels very much discouraged and very much kind of out of the place when he goes to tamoguna places like bar or something. But in temple, devotee feels very nourished, very enthusiastic, isn't it? So Dhritarashtra was doubtful that this is the holy place, and Pandavas are virtuous people. So this holy place of Kurukshetra may favor Pandavas. It may energize Pandavas. It may give more enthusiasm to Pandavas, and that's why the outcome of battle can favor Pandavas. Pandavas may become victorious. So that was the fear of Dhritarashtra. Now this Sanjay, who was present, so Dhritarashtra is asking all these things to Sanjay. This Sanjay, he was the student of Vyasadeva. And because of mercy of Vyasadeva, he had the special ability of TV. So TV, there was a TV in the mind of Sanjay, wherein he could have live telecast of what is going on the battlefield. So just like we have now live telecast of cricket match, similarly, or any other events. So, but Sanjay, many 5,000 years ago, he had the ability of also seeing live telecast of what is happening in the battlefield without any external instruments. So now we see that both Pandavas and sons of Dhritarashtra, they all belong to Kauravas. Actually speaking, Pandavas were also Kauravas because they all belong to Kuru dynasty, and both were members of the same family. But when Dhritarashtra is saying Mamakaha, his mind is disclosed herein. What is his mind? He deliberately claimed only his sons as Kurus and not Pandavas as Kauravas. So he was telling, these are my sons and these are Pandu's sons. So his internal mind, what is saying? That only my sons should get the throne and sons of Pandu should not get the throne. That is his original, that is his intention behind using this word Mamakaha. So we see in this world how this material attachment, it blinds a person. Dhritarashtra was blind, from his birth. Unfortunately, he was not only blind in his material vision, he was also blind in his spiritual vision also. Hmm. Because he had a blind attachment to his sons. Hmm. So, His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrita Swami Maharaj was telling that this is the nature of material attachment. It blinds a person to what is right and what is wrong. Hmm. So Dhritarashtra, he knew that his sons are evil. Hmm. He knew that his sons are not doing right thing, but he was so materially attached to them that he lost the sense of discrimination, and in this way he got blinded over. So sometimes we see that conditioned souls in this world also exhibit this type of blind attachment. Hmm. Although people know, although a person knows that this is not right, but because of material attachment, the person cannot give up that particular thing. Dhritarashtra knew that his sons are certainly wrong and they are unreasonable, but he was so attached that he could not make any solution for it. He could not take a very firm step. He became very much weakened by that attachment, and because of such blind attachment of Dhritarashtra towards Duryodhan, especially, entire you can say the entire uh, children, all the sons of Dhritarashtra and all his relatives, everybody just got finished and destroyed, isn't it? So this is the nature of blind attachment. Hmm. That if one is unnecessarily attached to the things which are against one's interest, especially against one's Krishna consciousness, it can ruin lot of things in our life. Attachment to the wrong things and attachment to the wrong persons. Hmm. So if one, as a devotee also, if one maintains attachment, such blind attachment to wrong persons and wrong things, it can certainly cause lot of loss for a devotee. Hmm. Unfortunately, sometimes devotees also don't understand these things unless it becomes too late. And so that's why it is very important that we become enlightened, we come to the platform of knowledge and understand what is right, what is wrong. And certainly, it is we are going to companies and we have to deal with lot of people who may have wrong concepts. Sometimes people have a lot of wrong concepts. People have a lot of concepts of material enjoyment. Hmm. And independent of Krishna, enjoyment is not bad, but as long as one is a devotee of Krishna and one offers everything to Krishna and partakes of the remnants of Krishna, that type of enjoyment is wonderful. So, but the materialistic, non-devotional enjoyment is what is not appreciated. So we may have to associate with such people, we may have to be with such people, but we need not take their association. And especially, what do you mean by a blind attachment? Basically means taking their concepts very seriously in our life and trying to uh, put faith on them and losing our faith on the words of Shastras, on the faith of Guru, and in this way getting carried away by the attachment to some non-devotional, especially non-devotional personalities, or especially non-devotional concepts, and similarly non-devotional things which are against our interest in Krishna consciousness. So a person's blind attachment towards this can really cause a big harm to him. So that's why devotees can take lesson from this Dhritarashtra's example and try to see that our attachments are positive. Our attachments are to Krishna, to devotees. Our attachments are rightly placed. Hmm. Otherwise it can blind us. So another side of this attachment. So there are two sides of this blind attachment. One side is that those who are evil, but if we are attached to them, we think that these are mine and I want to just fulfill all the things related to this attachment. Another side is that one feels aversion towards the virtuous people if they are not mine. So we see that Dhritarashtra, Pandus were also one sense his only, isn't it? They can be also called as Mamaka because they are his, they are his nephews, and they
Roji,
also respect. Huh?
Roji, can you please repeat this attachment? Two types, different types of attachment. Can you please repeat that part?
Okay, I'm doing that. So two sides of attachment. One side of attachment is that one feels two sides, two effects of this attachment, that even if a person is evil, but if he's mine, I get attached to him and I try to fulfill that attachment somehow or other. And other side is that even if another person who may not be necessarily so much related to me, or or going to kind of give sense gratification to me, but if he's virtuous, I feel aversion towards him. So that's what I'm explaining now, that Dhritarashtra, his sons were evil, but because they were his sons, he was feeling great attachment towards them, and he was ready to do anything, any wrong, any incorrect activity in order to fulfill the desires and demands of Dhritarashtra. On the other hand, Pandavas were so virtuous and they respected Dhritarashtra, they loved Dhritarashtra. But just because they were not his sons, Dhritarashtra had kind of aversion towards them and enviousness towards them. So this is the nature of aversion towards virtuous, attachment towards evil. This is the nature of blind attachment. So these are the two aspects: attachment to evil, aversion to virtuous, if they are not going to satisfy my sense gratification. So this is what is the nature of this blind attachment. That's what Bhakti Rasamrut Maharaj was telling. So we see, because of this blind attachment, Dhritarashtra lost all his sense, isn't it? And he could not discriminate what is right, what is wrong. He lost the sense of discrimination, and eventually we know that it led to ruination. So this material attachment, Bhakti Rasamrut Maharaj was telling that it clouds one's intelligence, and it blinds one's judgment, and makes one believe that one should not believe, and right things to be wrong, wise things to be correct. So this is the nature of पूरा उल्टा कर देती है सारे चीजों को, जो गलत चीज है उसको सही समझने लगता है व्यक्ति, जो चीज नहीं करना है वो करने लगता है. That is the nature of this blind attachment. So due to his blind attachment, Dhritarashtra could not see goodness in Pandavas and evil in his sons, and that's why he could not even yield to good advice also, like that. So what the result was going to be evident. So Prabhupada writes in the purport that just as in a paddy field, the unnecessary weeds are taken out by the farmer, similarly, in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, which is kind of field in which the paddy is what? Pandavas, who were like, great devotees of the Lord and who were aligning with the Lord. So they are going to survive, and the weeds, जो unnecessary weeds है, Kauravas are compared to be weeds, and they will be chopped out by the farmer called Krishna. That is going to happen. So Duryodhan and his sons will be wiped out, and thoroughly religious persons headed by Yudhishthir would be established by the Lord. So Prabhupada says that this is the significance of the words Dharma Kshetre and Kurukshetre, apart from their historical and Vedic importance. So this verse alone is the first part of the first section of this chapter. Now the second section of this chapter is from verse number 2 to 11. Second verse to 11th verse is the second section, and in this section there is a description of on the scene of the battlefield in the response to Dhritarashtra's inquiry. So Sanjay is describing what is going to happen on the battlefield of Kurukshetra as a response to Dhritarashtra's inquiry. So first he describes the acts of Duryodhan, which didn't have any intentions to compromise in the battle. So Dhritarashtra was fearful. So there were various fears of Dhritarashtra which will come ahead in the further. So Dhritarashtra's fears were addressed by Sanjay in his next descriptions. So this particular section from 2nd verse to 11th verse is describing Duryodhana's fear also and diplomacy in describing the armies. That is going to come in the next section for next 11 verses almost. Okay, so please recite the 2nd verse. Who is going to recite the 2nd verse?
Abhishek Pro.
Yes, bro. Please recite.
Puja, I have to recite complete verse first.
One after you, we will recite.
Okay. Sanjaya Uvach
Sanjaya
Jaya
Uvacha,
Uvacha
Drishva tu Pandavani
Drishva tu Pandavanikam Vyudham Duryodhanastata Acharyam Upasamgamya
Raja Vachanam Abravit.
Raja Vachanam
Translation. Sanjay said, O king, after looking over the army arranged in military formation by the sons of Pandu, King Duryodhan went to his teacher and spoke the following words.
yeah. So now, His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrita Swami Maharaj, he was telling that it was customary for king to enthuse his commander before the battle. So king would enthuse his commander in chief before the battle would begin. So King Duryodhan is addressed as king over here. So he went to his commander and his teacher and he spoke the words. So one of the very wonderful wonderful point about this particular battle was that there were some codes of conduct those days, and that's why it was called as Dharma Yuddha, because it was fought on the basis of codes of religion. And what were the such codes? One of such code was not to attack the enemy who cannot see you. If an enemy cannot see you, you should not attack him. Another code was that you should not attack an enemy who is running away from you. Another code was you should not attack an enemy surrendered to you. Another code was that one should not attack an enemy who is without weapons. So these were the religious codes, and that's why that was called as Dharma Yuddha. So even the evil people like Kauravas, even they followed these codes. So we can imagine that in present age, how much is the difference between the way of fighting. There was no battle would be fought after sunset. After sunset is done, after the sun is set, the fight would immediately stop. And sometimes even the soldiers or the people from opposite parties of the battle, they would go to each other's camps, and sometimes they would even take prasad with each other, prasad or food, whatever. Sometimes they would have very friendly discussions with each other. So this was their way. They would deal with friendly with each other. It's not that in the night they will go secretly and raise a weapon and kill a person. That would not happen. Or they will put some poison in the food. So these kind of things were not there. And we see that these entire battles, they were all fought on the outskirts of city, so that none of the old people, none of the children, none of the Matajis, ladies, they would be killed. In fact, it is said that even the Shudras who would carry food or who would carry the weapons, they were totally unharmed in this. So we can just picturize that was the way the battles were conducted. So much of codes and so much of proper, disciplines and regulations, and that's why they're called as Dharma Yuddha. But unfortunately, in modern times, what we see, so many Russia-Ukraine war, so many innocent citizens are being killed. who have nothing to do, just for some political agendas. And there is no timing only. Suddenly in the night, one may be sleeping and there may be a missile attack, and one may have to lose one's life, isn't it? Even if the person may not have any weapon or any way of defending himself, they don't care. Sometimes the civilians are attacked, sometimes the buildings are attacked, and everything is just destroyed. Everything, even children, innocent children, what they can do, they're so helpless. Even they are also killed very harshly and mercilessly. So that's why we cannot say that these are dharma yuddha. These are adharma yuddhas, where there is no proper code of conduct. There is no religious side to it. So although sometimes it may come in the form of, kind of religious fight, but it is not at all religious, because there is no, we see that even in Kashmir, the terrorists, they hardly ever fight. They simply want to attack from behind, isn't it? And when there is no particular type of, code or a particular type of, rule is followed. They kill so many innocent women, children, everybody is killed. Whereas in this Kurukshetra battlefield, only Kshatriyas fought, and only Kshatriyas were the ones who were fighting, and they were killed and all that. So we can see a significant contrast between modern fighting and the fighting during Vedic times. So Prabhupada says in the purport that Dhritarashtra was blind from birth, as we discussed, and unfortunately he was also bereft of spiritual vision. He was not only blind materially, but he was also bereft of spiritual vision. So Prabhupada says that he knew that his sons were equally blind, but and he knew that they would never reach an agreement with the Pandavas, who were all pious people. But still he was doubtful about the influence of the place of pilgrimage. So Sanjay could understand the mentality of Dhritarashtra, and that's why, to encourage this fearful king, despondent king Dhritarashtra, Sanjay spoke these words, and he assured him that his sons are not going to compromise. So Dhritarashtra was afraid that maybe, so one fear of Dhritarashtra was that because this is the place of pilgrimage, so it may favor Pandavas who were pious. Another of his fear was that because it is a place of pilgrimage, it may influence his own sons. And in this way, what will happen? His sons may say that, nahi, chalo, theek hai. After all, we are only wrong, so let us compromise. We don't want to fight. Maybe Yudhishthir, you can become a king. Kya kare? It was sorry, it was our mistake only. Because it's a place of pilgrimage, it may have a very positive effect on his sons. So he was even afraid of that. So Sanjay very, very well, dispelled his doubts. Ki nahi, aisa kuch nahi hone wala hai, don't worry. There is not going to be any compromise on this battlefield. Kuch compromise hone nahi wala hai, yuddha hone hi wala hai. That's what Sanjay assured Dhritarashtra. So here Prabhupada says in the purport also that Duryodhana is mentioned as the king, but still he had to go to commander on account of seriousness of the situation. The situation was very, very serious. Things were not so easy, and that's why, although he was a king, he approached his commander, Drona. So we see Prabhupada says the last line of the purport, if you see, Prabhupada says that, so Duryodhana's diplomatic veneer could not disguise the fear he felt when he saw military arrangements of the Pandavas. So Duryodhan, he was thinking, Arey, ye Pandavas kya hai? They were in the forest, they were in the exile for 13 years. So they must not have gathered any armies and all that. Who will fight from their side? I was the king, I was the ruling person, and I am certainly having a huge army with me. So Pandavas must not have gathered anything tangible. And anyway, they must have lost also their intelligence of how to organize battlefield and all that, how to organize the military phalanx and all that. So unko kuch shayad abhi tak yaad nahi raha hoga. Unka out of practice they are not practiced also. So he did not think that they could gather a big army or can make an expert arrangement. But when he came on the battlefield, he saw that that was not a fact. The entire army of Pandavas were also arranged very well, and they didn't have, although it was lesser than Kauravas, but it did not have zero number of allies with them. They also had lot of allies with them. So that way, and there on opposite side there were very powerful people. So that way Duryodhan was also afraid. So just like Dhritarashtra was afraid, similarly Duryodhan was also afraid. And in this way, um, he could he could not, so although he was speaking very boastful words, but he could not hide his fear when he saw the military arrangement of the Pandavas. So that was Dhritarashtra's. So now Dhritarashtra is going, this is what Sanjay is saying. So text 3, who is going to recite?
Aditya Gaurang.
Yes, Prabhu.
Aditya Gaurang, please recite.
Yes, Prabhu. Pashyatam Pandaputranam Acharya Mahatim Chamum
Acharya
Vyudham Drupada Putrena
Yudham Drupada Putrena
Tava Shishyena Dhimata. Translation. O my teacher, behold the great army of the sons of Pandu, so expertly arranged by your intelligent disciple, the son of Drupada.
Yeah. So now Duryodhana is speaking now. He's beginning to speak. So he's telling, oh my teacher, he's addressing whom? Dronacharya. So in purport, Prabhupada says that this Duryodhana, he was a very great diplomat, and he wanted to point out the defects of Dronacharya. So he doesn't take the name of Drishtadyumna. He said, your intelligent disciple. So he's telling sarcastically कि देखो आपके disciple ने ये arrange किया है. So what is the fault of this thing? What is the fault of Dronacharya? So who can tell? Can somebody narrate? What was the fault of Dronacharya here? What he wanted to point out?
Proji, he had trained Drishtadyumna, who is the son of Drupad, because Drupad had enmity. Drupad and Dronacharya had enmity with each other. Still, Dronacharya trained his enemy's son, and now that son itself has turned against him in the battle.
Yeah, correct. So actually, this Dronacharya and Drupad, they were school friends. They were friends in Gurukul. And one time in the zest of friendship, this Drupad said that I will give you half of my kingdom. And eventually Drupad became a big king and Dronacharya became pauper. But when Dronacharya went to, so one day Dronacharya was having so much of course there is a big pastime, we'll not get fully into it. But Dronacharya was in such a desperate situation that he had nothing. He didn't have even milk to give to his son, Ashwathama. So Dronacharya thought that, okay, let me approach his son, my friend, at least get a cow. So he went to Drupad and he said, do you remember I am your friend Drona? We are together in the Gurukul. And that time Drupad was very arrogant. And he said, hey, you foolish Brahmana, you are so poor. How can you call me as your friend? So get lost from here. And then in this way, Dronacharya felt greatly insulted and it took a vow that I will give a very good lesson to this Drupad. So eventually Kauravas and Pandavas became the disciples of Drona. And then when they passed out of their Gurukul, so during their, farewell ceremony, they were asking for Guru Dakshina. So Drona said that Guru Dakshina is that you have to conquer over Drupad and bring him to me, make him fall at my feet. So first Kauravas tried, they could not be successful. Ultimately Arjun could capture Drupad and he dragged him like an animal and put him on the feet of Drona. And then Drona said, so, now who is rich and who is poor? You are falling at my feet. Nonetheless, I am not as miserly as you. So I still value our friendship. So I give you half of the kingdom to you now. In this way, Drupad felt greatly insulted. And then he took a vow also that I will beget such a son who will be cause of death of Drona. And in this way, through Yajna, Drishtadyumna and Draupadi both were born. So Drishtadyumna was born to kill Drona. So although Drona knew this very well, Dronacharya knew this very well, that Drupad has begotten this son only for the sake of my death, only for killing me. Still, Drupad sent his son to get trained only from Dronacharya only, because Dronacharya was the best teacher. And Dronacharya also, being a Brahmana, he was very liberal minded, and he also accepted Drishtadyumna as his disciple, and he taught him everything. We can just wonder now how people are so value. Can you imagine the values of people? Drupal had no fear in sending his son to Drona. He didn't fear that maybe Drona is so expert, he may one day kill my son only, because Drona knows that he is going to kill me in future. So Drupad had no such insecurity. Neither Drona had an insecurity from Drishtadyumna saying, hey, nahi, ये तो मेरे मारने के लिए पैदा हुआ है, मैं तो इसको मार डालूंगा अभी. He did not have, he taught him everything. So can you tell now for this entire pastime two incidences which are opposite? One incident which is opposite of, after knowing that this person is going to kill me, still Dronacharya did not kill him. Dronacharya still trained. So opposite incidents of this in Krishna's pastimes. And another about opposite of this friendship, similar setting, but the way the way Drupad and Drona behaved with each other, what is the opposite way there was a behavior? So can you tell? Yes, Chaitanya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes. So
Comes
for
to-
first scenario,
for first,
yeah, go ahead.
when the opposite, when a person knows that this person is killing me, the pastime of Kamsa hearing that the Devki's seventh son will kill him.
Yeah, exactly. You see, Kansa, when he also got notice that this my sister, Devaki's son is going to kill me, immediately wanted to kill Devaki. So where is the value? There was no value, although he was his own sister. It was her marriage day, and he was so affectionate to his sister. But all his affection got finished as soon as he heard that, that her son is going to kill me. On the other hand, here he knew, Dronacharya knew that Drishtadyumna is meant to kill me. Still, he gave him all training. So, what a value of a person! My God. I'm simply amazed. Are you not amazed that this is so wonderful that how he can give, what are the values of this person? Isn't it very amazing that how they are able to teach to an enemy who is going to kill you? And there is no shortage in telling also, all things were very nicely trained to Drishtadyumna, isn't it? But Duryodhan took it as a weakness. Duryodhan took it, Are, you are such a foolish person. How you are training your enemy's son in a nice military way. See your disciple, now he has come and now he has become opposite. And now आपके गुरु की विद्या गुरु के ऊपर ही लगा रहे वो अभी. Duryodhan is pointing out the fault of, so Duryodhan could not see this as a virtue. He saw this as a fault, because politically he thought that it is a fault. In this way he wanted to little bit poke Dronacharya. Okay, for the first one, what is the opposite example? The friendship.
Sudama and
Yes.
Krishna.
Who?
Sudama meeting Lord Krishna.
Krishna and Sudama, correct. Exact same setting, right? Krishna became rich, Sudama became poor. And exactly when Sudama came, how Krishna welcomes. If you see in the 10th canto, it is simply amazing. But here, Drupad was so puffed up and proud that he just neglected Drona. So yeah, so totally opposite setting. So now why Duryodhana is pointing out the mistake? Prabhupada writes in the purport that Duryodhana pointed out the mistake of Dronacharya so that he might be alert and uncompromising in the fighting. So बोल रहे कि अरे आपके जो डिसाइपल है उसने ही किया ये सब और बहुत एक्सपर्टली किया है, अच्छे से मिलिट्री अरेंजमेंट किया है. So be careful, we should not think that आप कुछ भी अभी सब कुछ अपने फेवर में है, आपकी डिसाइपल ने ऐसे किया है. So he wanted to little bit poke Dronacharya so that he might be alert and uncompromising in his fighting. Similarly, also knew that even the Dronacharya had affection for Pandavas, and that's why he did not want that Dronacharya should compromise, and become lenient to Pandavas. So he wanted to say that just like he became lenient for Drishtadyumna, don't become lenient to Pandavas similarly and become dhila dhala in fighting. Don't become dhila dhala in fighting out of affection, especially for your favorite student. Who is that? Arjun. Don't become, loose in your fighting. So Duryodhan, Prabhupada says that Duryodhan also warned that such leniency in the fight would lead to defeat. So we can see that here Duryodhan did purposefully avoided taking name of Drishtadyumna, but instead he purposely called him the son of Drupada. So yeah, so here Acharya say that the Brahmana's liberal heart is compared to the sun, which does not withhold its light from the courtyard of anyone, even of a thief. Similarly, Dronacharya did not hesitate to impart all his military secrets to Drishtadyumna. So just like the sun does not withhold his rays even from a courtyard of a thief, similarly Dronacharya very liberally even trained Drishtadyumna. Okay, so please recite 4th verse. Who is going to recite 4th verse?
Aditya Pro, Aditya Teppalar.
Yes, Aditya Pro, please recite 4th verse.
I'm
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Aditya Pro, what happened? Okay, we'll go next, I think. Akshay Katare Pro.
Yes.
अत्र क्षुरा महेश्वासा भीमा अर्जुन
Atra Shura
Maheshwasa
भीमा अर्जुन समायुधि
Bhima Arjuna Samayudhi
विरातश्च
Yuyudhano Viratascha
द्रुपदश्च महारथः Here is this army are many heroic bowmen equal in fighting to Bhima and Arjuna. Great fighters like Yuyudhana, Virata and Drupada.
Yes. So please read some part of purport also.
Even though Drishtadyumna was
I
not
tell you
a... Yes, Prabhuji?
Yeah, continue read. I'll tell you when to stop.
Okay. Even though Drishtadyumna was not a very important obstacle in the face of Dronacharya's very great power in the military art, there were many others who were causes of fear. They are mentioned by Duryodhana as great stumbling blocks on the path of victory because every one of them was as formidable as Bhima and Arjuna. He knew the strength of Bhima and Arjuna, and thus he compared the others with them.
Yes, thank you. So here the names of Bhima is mentioned. Specifically, Duryodhana is afraid of Bhima. Why he took the name of Bhima first? Duryodhan took the name of Bhima first because Duryodhan knew that although he's trained by Lord Balram, he himself is trained by Lord Balram, but if anybody could kill him, it was Bhima. So that's why, Duryodhan was most afraid of Bhima. So here again, Duryodhana mentioned Drupad to incite Drona's anger, so that Drona should become sufficiently angry. So he took again the name of Drupada, who was his enemy. And Drupad also mentioned Bhima and Arjun. So Arjun was a very powerful enemy. Duryodhan was very aware. Not only he had studied under Drona and was the best amongst all the students of Drona, but he had also gone to heavenly planets and he had even fought with Lord Shiva. And in this way, he had gained lot of celestial weapons also. But especially, Duryodhan was afraid of Bhima's fiery temperament and his expertise in fighting and his strength. So that's why Bhima's name is mentioned first. Especially Bhima amongst all was most furious with Dhritarashtra's sons. And that's why before battle, he had taken 3 vows. The first vow of Bhima was what? He vowed to kill each of Dhritarashtra's 100 sons. He will kill each of Dhritarashtra's 100 sons. And that's what we see happened also during battle. In fact, during battle, Arjun and other Pandavas, other people from Pandava's side, they had opportunities to kill some of the Dhritarashtra's sons, but they did not kill them because they were very well aware that Bhima had taken vow to kill each of 100 sons of Dhritarashtra. So that's why they didn't want to break the vow of Bhima. And in this way, Bhima personally killed each and every son of Dhritarashtra. In fact, during the battle, Bhima's anger was inflamed. He screamed, he jumped up and down, and even drank the blood of Dhritarashtra he killed. So he drank the blood of each son of Dhritarashtra whom he killed. So even the warriors on Pandava's side also were afraid of Bhima sometimes, that what he would do. Second vow Bhima had taken was that he was about to break Duryodhana's thigh. So when Draupadi was being insulted, that time Duryodhana had uncovered his thigh and he had mentioned to Draupadi, come and sit on this thigh. Come on, sit on my lap. You are fit for my enjoyment. And seeing this, Bhima had become extremely angry and he had taken a vow that I will break this thigh of Duryodhan. And he was just waiting to kill all the Pandavas. 13 years he had withheld his anger and he was just waiting when he can kill this Duryodhan. Third vow Bhima had taken to tear open Dushasana's chest, take out his heart and drink his blood, because Dushasan had dared to touch Draupadi's hair. So Draupadi's hair were sanctified for yajna and they were tied together, but he touched, Dushasana touched and tried to disrobe Draupadi, and that's why he had taken a vow to tear open the chest of Dushasana and also rip him of one of his arm. And he said that, he had told Draupadi that you should keep your hair untied unless and until I bathe your hair with blood of Dushasan. ऐसे बोला था द्रौपदी को, जब तक मैं दुशासन के ब्लड से तुम्हारे बालों को नहीं धोऊंगा तब तक तुम अपने बाल मत बांधना. Like that he had said. So in this way, Bhima had taken these 3 ferocious vows, and that's why Duryodhan was especially afraid of the Bhima. So Duryodhan, he named all these fighters to pursue Dronacharya to free himself from whatever sentiments he had felt for the Pandavas. He said, "ऐसे सब लोग हैं, so don't become sentimental towards Pandavas and don't become lenient." And in this way now, he continues to describe the Pandava strength. So fifth verse is right.
Aman Prabhu, Aman Kumar.
Yes, ma'am. धृतराष्ट्रकेतु च केतीना काशीराजश्च वीर्यवान् जित्कुन्तिभोजश्च शैवश्च नरपुङ्गवा There are also great heroic powerful fighters like Drishtaketu, Chekitana, Kashiraja, Purujit, Kunti Bhoja, and Shaibya.
Yeah. So these are the other warriors mentioned, very powerful warriors by Duryodhan. Okay, 6th verse, please recite. Next devotee.
Aniruddha Prabhu.
युद्धमानश्च विक्रान्ता उत्तमौजश्च वीर्यवान् सौभद्र द्रौपदेयश्च सर्व एव महारथः. Translation: There are the mighty Yuddhamanya, the very powerful Uttamauja, the son of Subhadra and the sons of Draupadi. All the warriors are great chariot fighters.
Yes. So with this verse now, Duryodhan ends his description of the great warriors on Pandava's side. Now, thinking that Dronacharya might perceive that he was afraid of the Pandavas' army, now Duryodhan spoke boldly about his own army to cover his inner fear. So Dronacharya may think that, okay, this Duryodhan is afraid of Pandavas' army. इसलिए वो अभी अपने army के बारे में बताने वाले. Okay, so 7th verse, please recite.
Ankush Prabhu.
अस्माकं तु विशिष्टाये तानि बोध द्विजोत्तम नायका मम सन्न्यस्य समुनार्थं तान् ब्रवीमि ते. Translation: O best of the Brahmanas, for your information, let me tell you about the captains who are specially qualified to lead my military.
Yeah. So Duryodhan, he did not want to discourage those listening to his own fears concerning the Pandava strength. That's why he told that, let me tell you about the great warriors. हमारे पास भी है लोग अच्छे. He wanted to tell. Okay, 8th verse, please recite.
Aradhan Bro.
भवान् भीष्मश्च कर्णश्च कृपाश्च समितिं जयः अश्वत्थामा विकर्णश्च सोमदत्तस्तथैव च. Translation: There are personalities like you, Bhishma, Karna, Kripa, Ashwathama, Vikarna, and the son of Somadatta called Bhurishrava, who are always victorious in battle.
Yeah. So so Duryodhana was speaking on to the two great warriors, Bhishma and Dronacharya. So now, while Duryodhan he was addressing Dronacharya, all his other fighters were gathering to listen. Now Duryodhan, he was not just some ordinary person. He was a very expert diplomat. And now he began to describe Kaurava's strength with the words Bhavan. So Bhavan refers to whom? Bhavan means Dronacharya. He is referring to Dronacharya. So before Duryodhan could speak something, he was caught in one difficulty. There was a difficult situation. In front of him, there were two great warriors. One was Bhima and another was Drona. Now Bhima was the commander in chief of the army and Drona was his military guru. So whom he should mention first? ये बहुत बड़ा question है. Duryodhan was very clever at the same time. So he knew that Bhishma was a Kshatriya and Drona was a Brahmana. So if he mentioned Bhishma's name first, Dronacharya will be insulted. In fact, if he would have made anybody's name first before Bhishma, Bhishma would have become highly insulted and he would have even cursed Duryodhan. But at the same time, Drona was also very, very powerful, equally powerful. And because Drona was a Brahmana, so Bhishma, they would not mind if he mentions the name of Drona first, out of the respect, because Bhishma was a Kshatriya, Drona was a Brahmana. So, okay, Brahmana's name is mentioned first, so the Bhishma would not mind it. In this way, very intelligently, Duryodhan says, Bhavan. Bhavan means you, Drona, are one of the most powerful person from my side, and also Bhishma, like that. There are personalities like you and Dronacharya and Bhishma. Next, he mentions Karna. So actually, we know that Bhishma and Karna, they were staunch enemies. And because Karna thought, what is the use? I'll fight and kill everyone. And this aged person will get credit. Who is this aged person? Bhishma. So this Bhishma will get all the credit. What is the use of such fighting? So Karna had vowed not to fight until Bhishma was killed. And that's why he mentions the name of Karna, the third one. Next, Duryodhan is mentioning Krupacharya, who was a relative of Drona. And then he mentions Ashwathama, who was the son of Drona. So in this way, this whole thing was to inspire Drona to fight very rigorously. Surprisingly, Duryodhan next mentions Vikarna. Now we see that Vikarna was not of the same caliber as Bhishma or Drona, but this Vikarna was the one who had attacked, who had opposed disrobing of Draupadi. So Duryodhan was thinking that maybe this Vikarna will become what? He'll become little lenient towards Pandavas. So that's why, although Vikarna was not a very, very powerful warrior, at least on the level of Bhishma, Drona, Karna, all these people, still he mentions the name of Vikarna. He wanted to flatter Vikarna, by which he wanted to ensure that Vikarna will be loyal to him only. So, in fact, His Grace Bhurijan Prabhu, he mentions that the defection was always the important concern for military leaders. So before the battlefield started, battle began, Yudhishthir had announced that whoever wants to side on each of the other side, now only you can change the party. So if you want to go from one side to another, you can change. Once the battle begins, you cannot change. So that was a policy. So there were many Kshatriyas who loved to fight, but they were not so concerned about which side to fight. उनका सिर्फ fighting करने का इच्छा था. Kshatriyas love to fight. So that's why, sometimes there was a fear that, अगर opposite party थोड़ा ज्यादा attractive लगा तो मेरे side के लोग वो opposite party में चले जाएंगे करके. ऐसा थोड़ा बहुत उनको डर था. So on both, Krishna was active in recruiting on the side of Pandavas, and Duryodhana was also very active in recruiting from the side of Kauravas. In fact, Krishna and Kunti, they both had approached Karna and invited him to join the Pandava side. They had told that they had actually informed him that time that Karna was the son of Kunti. He was the eldest brother of Pandavas. So, and they had told that anyways, you are not going to join the battle till Bhishma's death. So why not to at least that much time fight from the side of Pandavas, because anyways you are a fighter by nature, so you also must be willing to fight. And these are also your brothers, so why not to fight at least for that much side on the fight from the side of Pandavas. But however, Karna, he refused to give up his loyalty to Duryodhan. Also from Duryodhana's side, that's why he wanted to keep Vikarna on his side. He was afraid that udhar Draupadi ke disrobing ke वक्त क्या किया था, Vikarna ने oppose किया था. Now also Vikarna may change the party, that defection may happen. So that's why he wanted to keep Vikarna, so he mentions his name. Another person he wanted to win over was Pandava's uncle, who was Shalya. So Karna, he wanted a fit charioteer. And Shalya was very famous as both as charioteer and Maharathi warrior. So what had happened, that Shalya and his entire army, they had traveled long distance to join the battle. And on the way, they were very, very tired. So that time Duryodhan, he made very excellent arrangements for their stay, accommodation, and all possible comforts he tried to arrange. So Shalya, he being the uncle of Pandavas, he was actually planning to join Pandavas. But because, so Shalya got so impressed by the arrangement of this whole nice arrangement for him, all their fatigue was relieved. So he said that, I think Pandavas only might have arranged this. So in that feat, he said, whoever has arranged this nice thing for us, I will do whatever he says. And then Duryodhan comes in front and he says, it was I who arranged. So please now become the chariot of Karna. And in this way, Shalya originally had come with an intention to join Pandavas, but because he had given word to Duryodhan that way he had given word, so now he started fighting from the side of Kauravas. He also joined Duryodhan. So all right, our time is up, so we'll continue tomorrow. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai. So we'll continue 9th verse onwards tomorrow, same time.
Okay, Proji. So would like to thank Amshu Proji for.
You need not thank every class,
No,
I'm going to
just
continue
last
for
Proji.
some.
Yes, Proji. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Proji.
Thank you. Hari Bol.
Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.